Right now, as we speak, there is a deep, a wide, and a very aggressive panic in the Democratic Party. It started minutes into the debate, and it continues right now. It involves party strategists, it involves elected officials, it involves fundraisers. Some of those conversations include, should we go to the White House and ask the president to step aside? Other of the conversations are about, should prominent Democrats go public?
I was on the phones for some of it after that became clear, and there is a conversation happening inside Biden's circle, and certainly a much more frank conversation happening inside the Democratic coalition. And I think when you
say conversations happening, what do you mean?
I think people are talking. I think the conversations range from whether he should be in this race tomorrow morning to what was wrong with him.
The universal reaction was somewhere approaching panic.
I think there's a lot of people who are going to want to see him consider taking a different course now. We're still far from our convention, and there is time for this party to figure out a different way forward if he will allow us to do that.
So there's a lot more where that came from that you could potentially fill in. But that was sort of like immediately after the debate ended, how some people who are very well connected, they're getting text messages and calls from prominent Democrats, members of the DNC, elected officials, all of that, members of the media, donors as well. And they're talking about it and they are freaking out a little bit. I don't think it's fair, though, to say that panic was like the only reaction to what was going on. There was definitely a lot of panic, but there was also, deep concern. There was cringing, there was rage. There were all sorts of negative reactions. We can't paint it with a broad brush of like, dear God, no, that was only one dominant part of it.
The video will continue in just a moment, but first I have a message for you. TYT needs your help. Membership is vital to survival, so please go to tyt.com/team and become a member today.
People were sending a message. A lot of people anonymous, very concerned, very panicked. But one Democrat who was at like a watch party, I think, said we're gonna lose 20 seats in the House if this is what goes on, which maybe is optimistic actually. One described the debate performance as awful, saying, what the F? Another said, I'm in a state of shock. One said, I picked the wrong day to stop sniffing glue. I wanna know which one that is, because I feel like that's an interesting spin on that. But anyway, a lot were saying it's a disaster and all that. And look, that's anecdotal, that's just a few people or whatever. But the at least snap reaction from people watching is now in. 67% told CNN in a poll that Trump won. 33% say that Joe Biden won, which means that 33% of this country did not stop sniffing glue that day. They kept going, and that carried them through that experience. 57% said they do not have faith or confidence in Biden's ability to lead the country. 44% said they didn't in Trump. And we're gonna get to Trump's mania and his lies and all of that because he was also terrible. We can't forget about that. That's just less surprising at this point. But the media reactions came in. I could show you 1,000 of these. I chose not to do that. But like Pod Save America saying that it's the worst, maybe the worst debate I've ever seen in my entire life. And I think maybe Sarah Palin was pretty bad, back before, but this is probably the worst. And donor messages are coming in as well. Now, look, I did live coverage with Cenk Uygur on the Young Turks, gave a lot of my thoughts. More will come soon. But Brett, this is like your first chance to comment on all of this. What was the experience for you watching it?
It was the worst thing I have ever seen in a debate. Like, we've had bad debates before. We've had old guy debates before. We've had like Ron Paul, we've had Mike Gravel, we've had Bernie Sanders. They're the kind of old guy, and Donald Trump and even Joe Biden last time are the kind of old guy where you're like, grandpa, he's still got it. He's a weirdo, but he's still got it. But we've had brain dead, no idea what they're talking about debates before. We had Rick Perry's oops moment, where he forgot he forgot 20% of the government agencies that he would annihilate when he takes office, and he just went oops. But we've never had this level of consistent, sustained lack of brain function in a debate before. And it harkens back to the original televised debate that we all should remember from high school, when they taught us that when it was Kennedy versus Nixon, just looking at these two next to each other, Nixon looked sweaty and terrified and had 5 o'clock shadow and was weird. And America said no. Do you think we've become less superficial since then as a nation? We have not. We've become probably more partisan than we have before, but we've also never seen this kind of wake the hell up moment as blatantly on a debate stage for 90 minutes with breaks, by the way. Like they couldn't just shoot him in the butt with some cocaine.
I mean, look, to be fair, they couldn't even talk to their advisors during the breaks. They pretty much just had to stand there and drink H2O, which we used to have in America under Trump. Yeah, so look, not everybody thinks that it was a bad performance. And we're gonna get to the defenders. We wanna be fair and all of that. But I would also say, I'm following the mission statement that my wife told me I should. Look, his debate performance was rough to watch in the moment, but I would argue of the couple of possible outcomes, it is by far not the worst outcome in a meta sense, okay? Because look, I'm gonna discount the possibility that he could have had an amazing debate. I don't think that really existed. If that existed, it would have only come in the form of Donald Trump being as deranged as he's been as worst. That was not really a possibility. They strategized around that, but Joe Biden could have had a good debate. Now that seems like that would be better, right? Well, not necessarily, because then we would just have the same status quo that we have right now, where he's trailing in the national polls or tied, but trailing in the swing states. And that's not great, even though it's better, right? He could have had a bad debate that would have been worse than the status quo, but wouldn't fundamentally change the path forward for the Democrats. Instead, we had a horrible debate, but then at least we could change course. So like a good debate or a bad debate are worse than a terrible debate with like the math of what could potentially happen in the future. So there's my optimism for you, America. Worst is best. And I actually mean that. Thanks for watching our video. Did you know that you can support our show by becoming a subscriber? Just click the subscribe button and also ring the bell so that you get notifications when we're live or when we post new content.